I don't know if you guys saw this either. I want to read it to you guys. Netflix apparently has some plans with Monday Night Raw. That's interesting. WrestleVotes came out on the latest episode of Sportskeeda. They have WrestleVotes Radio on Sportskeeda's Backstage Pass. It's on their Patreon. And basically, WrestleVotes revealed Joey Votes stated WWE made some big news internationally this week as they announced a 3-week tour of the United Kingdom directly in the middle of WrestleMania season, with 6 of those shows being TV episodes of both Raw and SmackDown. We are told that after speaking with Netflix sources, that Netflix is absolutely open to the idea of broadcasting those Raw shows live as they happen. Basically, we could be looking at some Monday afternoon Raw episodes right in the middle of WrestleMania season. We're told that WWE is considering the idea, no decision one way or the other, but Netflix is on board for doing those shows live as they happen. Of course, SmackDown will be on a tape delay from USA Network, so there obviously wouldn't be any change there, but it is to be determined if Netflix wants to host these shows live as it's on the table. And I kind of want to talk about this for a second. I find it to be a really unique situation because I feel like there are no rules with WWE Raw on Netflix. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if having all that freedom is a good thing. I'm okay. For context, I'm very much I like structure. I like routine, right? And it's different for a guy like me. Like, I don't have the resources like Netflix or something. So I feel like when there is no structure or when there is a lack of routine, I get frustrated, right? Sometimes I feel like for Netflix, in the WWE, I feel like the best thing is to have structure, to have routine, because the viewership, right? But like, how does viewership matter to WWE and Raw and Netflix? Like, we are going into unprecedented territory here. And I think that's why this is super interesting, because if WWE Raw does their live episodes in the afternoon because they're in the UK, so Eastern time zone will watch it, I don't know, 1 or 2 o'clock or whatever they decide, right? Like, will Netflix be upset with WWE if there's less viewers? Is Netflix more interested in live viewership? Are they more interested in VOD viewership, right? Because in America, USA Network and Fox, they want live viewership, but that's because their whole platforms rely on WWE as a live program. And they don't really care for video on demand as much as they do care about live viewership. So does Netflix care more about live viewership? Does Netflix care just in general about the overall viewership? Do they care more about those things? That's why I find it to be a very fascinating topic, because if you look at Netflix going live during the afternoon, there's a lot of people on the Eastern time zone that are not going to be able to watch it because they're at work, or maybe they're too busy watching the Ango show live. Obviously, I'm just being funny, but the reality is people do go to work. So I do think, okay, would Netflix be upset with WWE? And then you have to wonder, like, there is advertising, but Netflix is, again, it's unprecedented territory because of the fact that they are a streaming provider. They're not known for live broadcasting. They're just getting their feet wet with it. Does Netflix want to be a live content provider? Those are things that we need to be wondering. Those are things that we need to be looking at. And I think it's okay to look at those things and to question those things. I would just really hate for WWE to air the show in the afternoon. Personally speaking, I would be cool with it. I think it would be kind of fun because I'm not impacted by a 9 to 9 work schedule. But I do wonder if WWE and Netflix are like, hey, let's do it. And then you have to wonder, hey, if Netflix is like, hey, we want to do something, maybe we can move Raw for this week on a Tuesday night. I don't know. I don't know if WWE having all that freedom and Netflix having all that freedom is a good thing. Because I think there is a lot of consistency with WWE being live Monday nights. But I think Netflix is going to change a lot about the WWE. And I don't know if it's all going to be positive. But then again, it goes back to, what does Netflix care about? That's the big question mark. We don't even know what they care about. I know, for example, when the Max streaming service was adding like sports and stuff, they only cared about live viewership. But WWE and AEW are live wrestling shows, and the focus has always been on the live viewership. So you have to wonder, what is their metric that they are going to view as to whether or not those shows are successful on streaming platforms? And the same could actually be said, by the way, about AEW, Collision, and Dynamite being streamed on Max. Like, I would really, really hate for the Max streaming service to simulcast Dynamite and Collision only for them to be like, hey, the live viewership isn't that great. But what if the VOD viewership is really good? So I think that's why I'm super intrigued by Netflix and Max streaming service. I think wrestling being on these streaming services, it could lead to a lot of cool things. It could be really cool. And I do like the idea of these changes possibly happening. I like the idea of these, I like the idea of them having a little bit of flexibility, but I think routine is so important. I don't know how that's going to help or hurt these companies in the long run. And I will say this. I remember Netflix, they tried doing a live stream for Love is Blind, the reunion show. I don't know if you guys heard about this or maybe you saw it on social media, but they tried doing a live reunion show for one of their reality shows, and they had a lot of issues going live. And it's not like Netflix constantly does live content. So maybe Netflix, if they're having an issue going live, who's to say that they just don't have WWE just upload the pre-recorded episode? You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds silly, but it's really different, bro. It is really, really different. There's a couple questions coming in the chat, so let's just, a couple comments, a couple questions. I see Roberto says they just care for content as they write the show. They don't believe peeps watch the show live. They're more worried about social media numbers, so shorts and clips is how they are arranging. VOD, what exactly is that? VOD is video on demand. So video on demand is like watching a video on YouTube, like one that's been uploaded there. It's not live. I do agree that social media numbers and shorts and clips matter, but they obviously don't have the highest payouts. So I know for Netflix, and maybe Netflix will care about that stuff, but I think for Netflix, they care about people watching the product. Do they care more about live or on demand, though? Their whole business structure has been on demand. So that is why I bring that up. That's why. Interesting stuff for sure, though. For sure.